Filmed live from UGAsports.com, presented by Oconee Gold Barbecue Sauce, Breda, Pest Management, and ASW Distillery. Brent Rollins, Dayne Young. We check out Georgia's games and review it and have a good time, hang out. I draw some things on a screen, and Brent makes me sound smart about football. That's kind of how this works. Thanks for hanging out with us. Brent, my assessment of Georgia's defense versus Tennessee. For quite a while, it was kind of the bend but don't break situation. But by the end of it, I felt like Georgia was kind of dictating what was happening on defense as well, even though the offense may have led the way for Georgia to take control of the game. Agree? Disagree?
Yeah, for the most part, I would agree with that. The thing that this, I only say it's disappointing because the coaching side of me obviously looks at it a little bit differently, but Josh Heupel, and they showed it on the screen during the game. Hey, here's your points per game and your production against everybody else. Here's your points per game and production against Georgia. What did we hear Lane Kiffin talk about a week ago? We went into the offseason. We had to change. We did everything. We game planned for. Everything we did was to beat that team, to beat them. Well, 4 years in a row, Georgia has now dominated and kept you from scoring 20 points when everybody else can't. Like, maybe you want to change and evolve. I thought he'd done a little bit of it early, and there was a little bit of things early in the game and the use of the tight ends that they did. But as the game evolves, it gets back into the same predictable offense to me. And Georgia knows where the angles are. They know when you're going to play action pass. There's a high level of predictability to the offense, and we've covered it when we've previewed back in 2022 with Hooker. Like, there's just certain things that it's just. Do you end up having better players? But right now, Tennessee just doesn't have better players on the outside. That's the difference in the game. They don't have the guys on the outside like, Hyatt and Tillman and whatnot.
This team, I didn't think was battle-tested coming in to play Georgia, especially in road games. They only had 2 true road games coming into this. One of those they lost at Arkansas, and then they kind of won a slog of a game against Oklahoma. Sanford Stadium was difficult for them in multiple ways. We saw it on some of the snap count things on defense, and then there's a critical penalty late in this game with a false start that made them kind of change how aggressive they were choosing to be. But early on, Tennessee gets the 10-0 lead. Let's show you how some of that happened, because there was some kind of funky spacing and numbers deal here for Georgia.
Yeah, and like I said, a lot of it is how they mixed in and used the tight ends. Because look what you get. Hey, we're going to set up the screen. We don't throw the tight. Maybe the tight ends aren't as big a part of our offense as what we had in the past, and then sets up the block. 87 on the right. What was his last? Kitzelman transfer. I think he's an Alabama transfer. And then boom, pops inside. Get there. I think he had 4 catches for 46 yards, and then 19 had a catch. And I want to say all of those, or most all of those, were early in the game. I don't remember one much later in the game. These first couple drives, they were getting involved.
So, but numbers-wise, this is not very complicated, right? Because when you motion out here and you have the wide splits that Tennessee, that we know that they do, right now, I mean, around the hat, this is 3-on-2 right here.
Yep.
So then where do you create the space here? The only thing I can think is you have to break down quicker on this, but yeah, I mean, this is how Tennessee gets numbers on you.
Yeah, and you see Georgia bringing extra people. They blitzed Nico on 22 of 43 dropbacks. This is one of the things that I remember back in 2022 when we previewed the game when Tennessee was number 1, right? And I talked about how Georgia's going to blitz the ever-loving I don't know what out of them. And they've consistently done that over the years because they know where your quarterback's going to be. And here you just execute, and the kid can make plays. But, yeah.
Nico's good arm. He's going to be a problem in the SEC.
If I were him, I'd play in a different offense. But, yes, I agree.
Okay.
Talented. Very talented.
I love the hate on Heupel's offense.
I'm not a fan.
Yeah.
I take that back. I am a fan. I'm a fan of what it does. I'm a fan of its lack of evolution. I'm not a fan of its lack of evolution. Like, I just don't understand it. That's my own sort of thought process there. There's so many things that he could do with it, possibly, but no. And his ability, by the way, his ability to move, you forget that he's 6'6", because like right here, he sees the hole, takes it, makes one cut, gets north-south. Like, it's just great play.
That lunge is for like 3.5 yards.
All he has to do is lay down that height. Like I got to take. That's like a a triple jump for me to get that far. But
I'm 6'3", so I can get part of the way there. But I can't move like that.
I will say, I think it was this play. Yeah, as Wilson is wrapping, he's wrapping sort of into the interior and gets caught up in the center. Does a good job. Gets kind of caught up in the trash, where he becomes a free rusher and into his face a little bit.
I'd like a slightly better angle here once you recognize it. But man, I'm just being, you talk about nitpicky. That's me being nitpicky.
Well, and a lot of it's you don't necessarily, and this is early in the game, you don't realize the kid's speed and the strides and things like that.
This is just one where you know who this running back is. You got to find a way to get him on the ground.
I will say this. He's really good.
That's a Sundays player.
He is. 77 of his 101 were after contact. He has no business getting.
I'm pausing it there. That got to the 1 yard line, Brent.
It's and his ability in short yardage, because it's not like he's a huge dude. He's not, Derek Henry, or he's 5'11", 200 pounds listed, and he doesn't even look that. But very powerful, makes people miss, very hard to tackle. Like that one early in the game, the short yardage run, he spins out and almost breaks it, or in that first drive, earlier in the first drive. But that's amazing ability. How by the way, how you let that happen, that's not good.
Ingram Dawkins.
All three, by the way, all three guys work together. That's one where it becomes almost like a backyard play, and you're looking at it individually as opposed to collectively. So I think that's Wilson, Michael, and Brinson right there work together. Hey, I'm going to stay right here. You stay outside, force them in, that kind of thing. But they're all reacting individually. So they all react out, and then he cuts up, and that's just amazing. And good job, keep blocking by them. And then they scored with the fullback, with the tight end as a lineup as a fullback running.
I'd like to show a little love to one of Georgia's toughest, most intense when it comes to being in the action players. I want you to watch Dan Jackson's journey here, because it's probably as brutal as the hit that he took on Keely Ringo's pick 6 return. But he's always putting his nose in there and dealing with the big folks, and he may feel that
gets double teamed.
Man, that dude is a tough SOB.
And we're going to talk about him in a little bit, because there's a reason we're going to talk about him. He was big in this game. Him and a couple other guys.
Mentioned the numbers earlier. Did the same thing where Georgia's keeping the box pretty heavy themselves. Tennessee did that on the other side, and then you get a little 2-on-1 at the top.
Here's what I think happened here. I actually think Dan Jackson lined up wrong. And the reason I say that, because what is Dan Jackson playing right now? Dan Jackson in this game played a ton of star, the nickel position. Dan Jackson, KJ Bolden, and Malachi Starks were basically on the field the entirety of the game. Let me look at the exact number to get that right. Starks 74 snaps out of all. Starks played every snap. Jackson played every snap but 1. KJ played. Bolden played every snap but 3. Janelle Aguero did not play a single snap.
Yeah.
So they said, hey, we're going to put those 3 guys. And what they did was a consistency of a 3 safety look just right across, and they'd run coverage after coverage there. But looking at this, and the reason I say I think he's lined up on the wrong side,
you think he's over here?
Because where CJ Allen is dropping to. He's dropping to the same spot Dan already is. And then he's like, oh, okay, I'm going to go. Was he supposed to blitz? I don't know. But I think that's why that ended up being the case. Because on the all-22 version, like Kirby from the sideline, he's pointing here, like, what are we doing here? He was kind of confused too, I think.
Yeah, and so that may just be an inexperienced lining up issue. Older player, but he hasn't played that position much.
I say, but they're doing something unique for this game. We hadn't seen what they did in this game all season.
We showed Chaz Chambliss as a fullback on offense. How about as a free rusher?
I mean, I didn't really understand the slide, why they slid that way. But again, you show a lot of pressure, and then like that's one of those where not everybody's coming. Maybe everybody is, but likely everybody is not. Two guys drop back. They slide away from Chaz almost gets treated like a true linebacker here versus as an edge pass rusher guy. And that's the beauty of having him stand up right there. I was shocked they didn't slide the other way. But yeah, they got to Nico. Very much so. I pressured him on 37% of the dropbacks overall in terms of just pressures. The defense themselves had 23 pressures, including the 5 sacks. So it was constant.
This next play, I am going to let it begin playing, and I'm going to get out of the way because I know your affinity for special teams.
This is freaking awesome. In terms of plays of the game for me. By the way, some of this is you can't really do anything about it. It's just a great return. But what Thorson did there to get rid of the block and close the space, it wasn't like he was just kind of hanging out. He closes the space. I mean, he looked like a football player right there, like Bobby Boucher, and finished. Like humongous play because the kid scores if he doesn't make the tackle, I think.
I love the rugby style. Making sure you're down. You're not getting back up.
Yeah, and he gave him a little something after he tackled him too, by the way.
That's what I'm saying. Boom. But no, you can't go. No, sir.
But he didn't have the greatest of game punting. But think about now that in 3 years against Tennessee, I would almost say that this play and then his punt against Tennessee in 2022 are those the two most memorable plays of his career at Georgia?
Well, he'll tell you that his best memories are on the sideline when he doesn't play.
Yeah, and he makes some good jokes about it on Twitter, but this is unreal of a play. Like outside of Lovett making a play and then kickstarting the offense to me, Beck right after that with the run, this was like just big time play of the game.
This is from this angle specifically, seeing what Warren Brinson does here.
And it was a very curious decision from them. When they ran this, I thought this was I'm going to go for it call. But all right, so this is it's kind of a pass game stunt, but it ends up being a run game stunt in a way. But pause it right there. A little bit back. Go back just a hair. Right there. So right there, when everyone cares about defense, talks about gap control, you've got right there. You've got the outside from our right, the offense's right to the offense's left. C.J. Allen out in the C gap. Ingram Dawkins right there in the B gap. Raylan Wilson that's Brinson. Sorry, Raylan Wilson right there. Whoever's at the nose, I think I can't remember who that is. There, Michael Williams B gap. Chaz on the other side. See, that is how you coach it. And then you get Brinson just up swim. They don't have enough guys to block you because what you brought makes a play. Beautiful stuff. Because, you give them 3 yards there, I think they might go for it.
Next up, Malachi had a couple, I don't want to say rough games, but he had a couple rough moments in the last month. This was pretty.
And it's one of those where, I mean, when you see it, when you look at it in real time, it was like, great play. He got there hair early, I think. Like he did. But
you can play the margins in this.
Right. But when it's bang, bang like that, like if I'm Tennessee, especially if I'm a Tennessee fan, I'm way less upset about this and way more upset about the drop that happened like 2 plays before this or a play or two before this. Right. Because the kid dropped one right on the sideline on a scramble drill. But if you look at what George is able to do defensively and how they can bring players against Tennessee and cover them one-on-one, that's where like the only evolution, like now you got a very talented quarterback. But for Tennessee, the next evolution, you have to have great players who can win one-on-ones. Because against teams like Georgia that can match up with you athletically, they're just going to cover you. And they know where your quarterback is, so they can put pressure on your quarterback consistently.
The other thing here, he was a hair early, but I don't think he's there. You're not going to get a foot down from this.
Likely not. I mean, the contact's going to take him out of the bounds.
Yes, that's what
Even
I'm
if
saying.
he does catch it. Yeah.
Even if it's a half second later, but he was there, and Kirby Smart was
Still
jacking
great
it back.
play. Yeah, he was excited. Dude in the red hat right there. I don't know who that is. I thought it was Searles for a second, but then I didn't know. Black long sleeves. Yeah, right there. Very, traps were flexed up. Excited. Good stuff. But go back to that, by the way.
Sideline view or the whole thing?
Yeah, sideline. No, who's in the gray with the? Is that for a second I was like, is that Tyke?
Maybe. Or the Bucks off this week?
I don't know, but I was like, random person that doesn't look like that. I'm pretty somebody who's better at that than me. I wonder if that was him, because I saw that and I was like, wait a second, he's right there on the field basically.
Pretty much, yeah. They welcome the guys back, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Smile Munden's back.
All right, thank you, Kenny. Yeah, he said, yeah, that's him. All right, so this is where, if you're a Tennessee fan, your predictability on off, like they got a first down play and then running, but look at the blitz they bring and where they bring it, because they know you're throwing the football. They like 1st and 10. They know you as much as you know you. And you get a free rusher. And by the way, I wrote about Munden after this morning. The consistency with which he is playing this year is unlike any he's played in his career. He's already got 5 single game PFF grades over 70. He had 1 against an FBS opponent in the previous few years. Like he's Georgia's highest graded defensive player now. Him coming back is huge for this team.
We had mentioned in the offensive episode how there's definitely a world where Carson Beck has a better NFL career than he did college, and his college career has had a lot of great moments. I think because of the volume of injuries that Smile Munden has had at Georgia, if he has better injury luck in the NFL, he could totally be in that same boat.
I agree. But yeah, this was they know what you want to do. You get crossing that part of the field, they know you want to take a shot and go play action, and because you went tempo, things like that.
This right here is pretty nice. Step, boom. All right, next up. This is not the greatest little fit here. 2nd and 3.
I tell you what, every time, I mean, they in terms of numbers, right? So we talked about the gap control earlier. The one takes himself out of the play, by taking on the block, is Jalen Walker, not necessarily Raylan Wilson. Ideally, he's just taking that guy head on versus kind of dipping inside. And then Starks kind of takes himself, because they just block this well. It's a hat for hat. It's 6-on-6, and you ideally you want your safety coming up right there. But 6, by the way, like every short yardage run, every crease that was there, he's that good. He's going to be a really good NFL back because he's able to just find any and all crease and accelerate through it and accelerate through contact. Gets a little bit, I think, puts a little more weight and thickness on, and he kind of reminds me of like Dave Montgomery, the guy for the Lions.
He shifts directions without slowing down. Very agile.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And hey, Tennessee at this point had the lead. Then it was kind of not good from there.
CJ Allen almost gets home here, 2nd and 9. I thought this was fantastic from Dan Jackson to chase this down.
Yep. See it, recognize it, play through the smoke, even though you might not be able to see anything that's going on. But I will say, this is one thing that's also curious about the Tennessee offense for me. Some of the play action things I don't understand. I don't think it does anything. Nobody cares. Like, everybody knows you're passing. Your pass sets are there. That's why the linebacker's coming. The fake does nothing. You might want to get your quarterback and not give your running back a bad angle to pick up the blitz. But that's just phenomenal from C.J. Allen. And then what was it? Rowe was talking on the broadcast about his sickness all week and didn't really practice. He looked lighter on his feet and faster in this game than he has all season. So maybe lost a few LBs this week, and it helped him because he was flying all over the place.
Little turf monster here.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Happens.
Good effort.
Yeah. Get out there.
hammy, maybe even.
Yeah. Hey, big guys are not used to having to go to the flat like that. Fight
Hey,
inside. But you chase it.
pressure is the theme, though. Like you think about like the pressure that was put on him in this game and how much Georgia consistently brought guys. Like he made some throws, but the pressure got to him.
By this point, Tennessee just has to start making plays because Georgia's been rolling on offense the entire second half. But it's a still one possession game here, and Nico tries to fit something, and not a whole lot of room over here. Almost a pick for KJ Bolt.
Yes, and a great job from, and if he throws it well, it's a pick six. But when you can cover them one-on-one, like look at this, you're covering them one-on-one. You got the deep, you got the safety over the top. Everybody eyes on QB there, so man on the outside, safety over the top. Everybody else got eyes on QB. You got Bolden kind of as the rat player that's just watching to see where things are. You're getting pressure in his face. I think was that. I didn't see who that was working on the left guard. Is that Michael? No, that's Michael. Like he had a really good game. Pressure in the face. Like if that's a great throw, that's a pick six, and it's good night, game over at that point.
And that forces a fourth down. And then at the end, it's pretty much over at this point, but one little down goes Nico. It tries everything he can to evade this.
Yeah, he played hard. I mean, especially coming off the concussion, but in the end, he just was under pressure too much. And the other thing, like one play that was like just kind of evident for me, there was a throw maybe right before one of those third downs where like it went high. It went higher for everybody. And then if you looked at it, and I was rewatching it today, each side of the field, Georgia had one-on-one on the outside, lockdown. The two inside routes were coming sort of towards the middle, and they had a defender underneath and a defender over top. Like they knew your routes and they knew where the ball was going to be thrown just as much as you did. So I think that was there. Let's see. Are we going to be in the playoffs after this win is all want to know? You win 2 more games. Yes, you're in the playoffs, Mr. Marty.
I don't think you have to worry about UMass. Georgia Tech,
yes.
Tougher game,
but not. Yeah, you got to just show up and take care of business and then get out healthy.
You know how I deal with tough games? I make sure I have good partners on my side, like ASW Distillery. And whether you're celebrating at your tailgate a big win like Georgia had, or if you were drowning your sorrows last week versus Ole Miss, ASW Distillery can help you do that. They are distilled by dogs. 5 of the 6 founders graduated from UGA. And if you buy the ASW's Hunker Bourbon or Hunker Vodka, anytime that you purchase that, some of the proceeds go to Georgia's Classic City Collective, helping with Georgia's NIL efforts. You have 2 more chances to tailgate, for sure chances to tailgate around Georgia's campus on your way to Sanford Stadium. UMass and Georgia Tech, maybe a playoff game. If you don't have ASW as part of your tailgate, you're doing something wrong, because like your tailgate could be fantastic with your ASW spirits, and then you have your Oconee Gold barbecue sauce that is the flavor of your tailgate. OconeeGoldBarbecueSauce.com. Use the promo code Film Don't Lie, get 20% off. And then you go to Sanford Stadium, which is protected by Breda Pest Management, the official pest control of the Georgia Bulldogs. Brent, overall, I thought Georgia's defense showed more life than it did against Ole Miss. That said, I thought it was an easier task what Tennessee presents. Ole Miss is a very difficult team to play with that quarterback and the way that they can distribute the ball across and around the field. I think future versions of Nico may be a little bit more difficult because he just wasn't accurate to a point you were making. So some of his throws that he sailed a little bit higher. Early in the game, he was very accurate. It just wasn't for 4 quarters. When he gets a little age and some seasoning on him in the SEC, I think that becomes a tougher task. And similar to how you saw Jackson Dart grow this year as compared to last year.
If the offense evolves.
And it may not.
I'm sorry. I'm just like, that's one I don't. It's great for what it is, but to beat really, really, really good teams, you got to do some different things.
Well, and Georgia will have to go to Neyland next year. Tennessee can still sneak into the playoffs, so I suppose there's a world there they could play again. Seems unlikely, though.
Speaking of that, what's going to be interesting with the committee is, say Alabama does make it to the SEC championship game and loses, and now they're 10-3.
And Tennessee
sitting there, sitting there at 10-2 and beat them.
Yeah.
Like,
it's going to be really hard to be punitive of losing a conference championship game, because then you're telling people, oh, it's better if you don't make it.
I agree.
And then they will lobby, then why do we have them? To which we'll all say, yeah, we've been telling you that.
I also agree with that. And I think if you're going to have the conference championship game, to me, you should go to 11 regular season games, but that's beside the point.
That's for an off-season podcast, because we're going to do this playoff one time, and then we're going to see the things that worked well, and we're seeing the things that were kind of dumb, like having it where the 5 through 8 seeds get to host the really cool things. You saw Sanford Stadium. That's fun. College football needs to be on campus. It needs to be with that fan base. It doesn't need to be at neutral site games, and I'm getting on the same rant that I went on to the post-game show.
So one thing that was very interesting about this weekend with Georgia's game for me, as it relates to the playoffs, is if Ohio State beats Indiana this week, I think they will. I don't know how bad, but I think they will. And they go and beat Oregon in the Big Ten championship game. I think Georgia, with their schedule and what they've done, and if they sort of look the part and play clean in the last 2 games versus an Oregon that's 12-1, who only beat Ohio State and has no other ranked wins, and then lost to and beat them at home. I could see a world where they now put Georgia at 5 and Oregon at 6 to not to me I think that the world exists now where whoever's 1, 5 will be the opposite conference. Whoever's 2, 6 will be the opposite conference. Whereas it's been looking so long to me that 1 might be Big Ten and 5 might be Big Ten. I don't think that's the case anymore.
They say that they're not going to seed things that way. It's just going to be in the order. Nah, we'll see. We'll see as this goes.
Yeah.
Hey, this is filmed live from UGAsports.com. Thanks for watching, everybody.